Now, the average fan sitting at home, I may be wrong, but a football game is a football game. And you really don't notice that much of the difference in technology and the difference of styles that you may use during a Super Bowl or a significant game than you would during the regular season. Um, are you aware of that? And
Yes,
you are.
100%. Yeah, I mean 100%. I mean, the thing about television is that it looks easy. You sit at home, it comes
Sure.
on. Maybe if something happens and the broadcaster doesn't cover it well or doesn't have an answer for it, that might cause you to raise your eyebrow at it. But it's you just expect things are going to happen. You're going to expect you're going to see what you're going to see. And the viewer, especially on Super Bowl Sunday, I just can't imagine most people are watching it by themselves, intently studious on
Yeah,
what's happening.
you're right.
But, you really just want to be as prepared as you possibly can be, to be ready for any and all situations. And a lot of the stuff we add, a lot of the cameras are just about making sure certain situations are covered. I remember when I did my first Super Bowl for NBC, it was 2009. It was the first time we put cameras on all four goal lines. And
Mhm.
those cameras really panned out because at the end of the half, you had James Harrison's 100-yard return. Did he get in? Did he not get in? Then you had Santonio Holmes at the end of the game where his feet in bounds in the end zone, were they not in bounds? And those cameras proved to be fortuitous
Yeah,
because they
valuable.
provided they provided the absolute evidence that yes, those plays were good.
Was there
So
any
how
equipment
what's
you never
what?
used?
Yeah.
Equipment we've never, yeah, I mean, like, so I'm not a fan of pylon cams. I've said that. I've been on the record with that many, many times. I've done 3 Super Bowls with pylon cams. Not one has made it on the air.
Oh, really? Isn't that interesting?
And not
So
because I didn't want it to get on,
Don't,
it's because
just
there
nothing
was
happened.
just
Yeah.
nothing happened.
don't
Yeah.
tell the finance guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So tell the fans, like how many cameras would you have for a regular season game, and what's the difference? How many will you have for the Super Bowl?
When on Sunday night we'd have about 25 cameras that shot the game, and then we'd have an aerial, and we'd have a camera outside the stadium. We'd have cameras in the hallways. So for a Sunday night game, 25, shoot the game, and probably another half dozen do other things non-related to the game.
Yeah.
Uh, well, during the Super Bowl, we'll probably have 35 cameras that shoot the game, and then we'll have another half dozen cameras in hallways and outside, and we'll have last year we had a camera at Paul Brown Stadium. We had cameras in downtown LA. So that's the stuff that you start adding on to try to provide a richer experience for people.
Does that become problematic for you or for
No,
the director?
well, I mean, you kind of those are cameras you can plan when you want to use them and how you're going to use them
Yeah.
because it's not game related. So,
Right.
I would say, coming out of the fourth quarter, starting the fourth quarter, hey, I'm going to take a shot at Paul Brown Stadium. I'm going to tell the director, hey, let's come out with Paul Brown Stadium. Then let's go to the shot of downtown LA just to kind of, reset the two cities that are battling this out. And as long as I didn't have to deal with something coming out of that break, that would make that decision dubious, that's what we would do. So, or if somebody got hurt and they're walking back up the tunnel and they're walking into the locker room or to the x-ray room, you would know, you'd have cameras shooting that, and that's when you would use that.
Like as a just an observer, I'm stunned that the camera that you've got 25 cameras for a regular game and 35 for a Super Bowl. Do you remember how many cameras you had for the first NFL game you did?
I'm going to take a little bit of a guess here. I'm going to say I probably had 12 or 13 cameras for the first NFL game I ever did, and that was a lot because ESPN was in prime time. It was I took over after the first 3 years, and they had built up a really a great facility for covering the NFL. So I'm going to say it was probably anywhere like 13 to 15 cameras.
Yeah, that's more than I thought I would have thought.
Things have changed over the years, Bob. I did the
No
Stanley
kidding.
Cup final. I did the Stanley Cup final in 1984 with 6.
Well, somebody just sent me a credential of the first football game I ever produced, not NFL, ever. It was a college game at Boston University, which hasn't had football probably in 20 years. And I know that game I had 5 cameras and 2 replays.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. Now that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like I can remember those days. And we don't assimilate the, you add an additional camera, the viewer, I don't think assimilates exactly what that means, but it's important, obviously.
Well, I mean, there are shots you want to have. I remember when I first started, and I think Sandy Grossman, who was a legendary director for CBS Sports, he was Madden's first director. When Lawrence Taylor burst on the scene, he wanted that dead-on shot of Lawrence Taylor looking in at the quarterback because Lawrence had that really menacing look, and
Yeah.
he put this camera in an end zone, but on the ground. So it was,
Right.
you were looking at Lawrence, looking right at the quarterback, and then that became a camera everybody had to have,
Right.
everybody. And then you wanted 2 of those cameras, and then now we have 4 of those cameras, and in the Super Bowl we'd have 6 of those cameras. So that's kind of how things multiply.
I'm intrigued. Like, do you know how many cameras of those 35 would you use during the game? Would you use all of them?
Yeah, not live. They probably made it on in replay somewhere. But one of the things that Drew Esikoff and I, try to espouse to our entire crew, like, hey, what we do on Sunday night is really good enough to cover this game.
Yeah.
This other stuff we're adding, this is in case a situation arises where this is going to be a much better look than we would have ordinarily. So let's not get out of what we do. We've been doing it this way for the last 23 weeks, but we know if certain situations arise, bang, we've got a great look at that.
Yeah. I'm thinking if I'm a cameraman, one of the 35 cameramen that go to the Super Bowl, and I'm out there, I mean, it's going to be nice weather, I assume, but still, it doesn't matter. It's indoors, but nonetheless, if I'm not getting, X number of shots on screen, I'm pissed. Do you ever have a cameraman come at you after a game
No.
and say, "Hey, you never used me"?
No, because I think the guys know what camera they're running and why they're running it. So they know the purpose of it. They know the likelihood or the chances of this camera getting on live. It's probably going to get on in replay somewhere. But no, they're like the rest of us. They're ecstatic to be doing the Super Bowl.
I guess.
Fred, do you have a favorite stadium?
Yeah, I would say AT&T Stadium in Dallas is my favorite stadium.
Well,
now, why is that from
nothing but the best
producer's perspective?
Yeah, I mean,
or as a
all
fan?
the camera, there's all the camera positions you'd ever want.
Right.
There is no blockage. The sight lines are perfect. The height of the cameras are perfect. The sidelines are wide enough. Everything you want is done perfectly, and all you have to do is plug in and shoot. And you can't ask for more than that when you're doing a game of that magnitude.
When a new stadium is built, do they consult with you?
They consult the networks. Yeah, every new stadium.
They do.
So what happens is if it's a stadium that has an NFC team, Fox would take the lead because they're the network of the NFC. If it was an AFC team, CBS would take the lead. But we all visit the stadium during the process. So we kind of keep tabs on what's happening.